Hello, this is Charlie at My Messy Fingers. I have this wonderful collection from Graphic 45. It is called Curiouser and Curiouser. I am going to be playing with the Patterns Pad 12 by 12, the Core Collection, which is the 12 by 12, and I'm also going to be playing with the 8 by 8 pad. In addition, I've got the tags. I have the ephemera, some rub-ons. I've got the sticker sheets, and I also have some beautiful brass bling. Now this is the bundle. If you go to Scrap and Create, their website, I have the link below. They'll send you these along with the collection at no additional charge. Now this is turning out to be an extremely popular collection, and I am really hoping I can do it justice. So why don't we just head right on into getting this album made so we can start playing with some beautiful colored paper. You're going to need 2 panels of chipboard. They're going to measure 9 by 9. You're going to want 1 panel that's going to measure at 2.5 inches by 9. Now this size of panel will hold 3 pages, each page holding 2 signatures, plus your left and right inside panels. We will have 8 signatures on this album. So it will get rather chunky and kind of heavy, but I like making big albums. So if you are not the person that likes to make big albums, then the only thing you need to do is cut this piece here down to 1 7/8. That's going to take one of the signatures away. You'll have, or one of the pages away, and you'll have room for 2 pages. Each of these gaps are at 5/8. I want room in between my pages so that they will hold the buildup that's going to take place on those pages. So if you want to make a skinnier album, like I said, just cut this down to 1 7/8, and then you'll have 2 pages spaced at 5/8 of an inch apart. So this will be your forward, this one will be in the center, and then this one would be on your left. So this is where the page is going to fall, and then this is a gap that you're going to have that's going to come right up to the gusset we're going to create. This one here is where your page is going to fall, and then this is the gap up to the gusset that we're going to create. Does that make sense? So on this 2.5 inch panel, this one will be toward the gusset, this one will be toward the gusset, and then we're going to have 2 that are going to be in the center of the spine. Does that make sense? So we've got that sorted out. Let's get to the paper. I am using a collection that I got at Cardstock Warehouse. It's in their color plans section, and it's called Ebony. I'm going to be using every single sheet of this 25-inch sheet packet. So if you want to head over to their website, I'll have the link down below, and pick this up. You might find it on Amazon. The price will be a little bit higher, but that's because they're building in the shipping cost. But you'd get it a lot faster. And then you're going to want, for the outside, if you're digging around for cardstock, this is their cherry out of their color plan, and we're going to be doing something with this. Now, if you buy your cardstock someplace else, just get as black as you can. Get a nice, beautiful, true red, not a pink, not an orange, but try and get a true red, because that's what's going to blend the best in this paperwork from Graphic 45. So this piece here, your first piece is going to measure in at 11.5 inches by 11 inches. This piece is going to measure in at 11.5 inches by 11 inches, but you're going to put 3/8 of an inch of score tape here for merging the two of these. Now, I will say that at Cardstock Warehouse, what I'm wrapping with in this color plan is 65-pound weight. You can pick up just a couple sheets of it rather than a whole pack. But what I'm using on the internal pages and the flaps so that there's strong support, I'm using 100-pound cover. When you have 65-pound and you're putting all that extra weight with the cardstock and the flaps, I find 100-pound cover supports and stands up a lot better, so that's why I use it. So let's get back to this. I also bind my albums using a product called Tyvek. It is actually a shipping envelope, so you can get it at Scrap and Create. You get sheets of it at Scrap and Create, or you can purchase a full envelope. But you're going to need two pieces that are going to measure 8.5 inches. You're going to score at 7/8 and then 1 1/8. And then we're going to take the spine piece and we're going to put it together first. And we're going to follow this track. I've marked mine in black so you could see it. We're going to follow this track up and down this and lay this right there on top of the gusset. And then we're going to come in with these two. And what you're going to have is a 1/4 inch gusset in between each of the panels. And from my experience, it makes it a lot easier to fold the book. You don't have it binding up, or you don't have it being constricted because there wasn't a big enough gap in between where the panels come in. So having said that, let's go ahead and let's get started. So I am going to just peel off the inside strip, and like I said, I am going to follow that black line all the way up. And then I'm going to peel this piece off, and it will secure that spine piece. Now let's go ahead and let's add this one. And again, I'm just going to come right up that gusset mark. This Tyvek has such resiliency. It will take a lot to tear this. So if you've ever gotten a shipping envelope or a mailing envelope that's made of this stuff, try and tear it. You'll understand what I mean. So what happens is that the edges, if you put it to the outside, the edges, these sharp edges, they don't seem sharp until you start turning your album, but you put it to the outside, then what it allows is for the cardstock to float over this Tyvek rather than the cardstock rubbing up against this. So it does help prevent tears and weakness in the flexing part of this, because the flexing is being done by this, not by the cardstock. Okay, cardstock's going to float over this. So now I'm going to line this up on my grid, going to put it right here, and then I'm just going to follow this line back up. And then we're going to do this side. I'm putting this on my grid, make sure I'm even, and then walk that up. There we go. Okay, give that a good old burnish. And there's the starting basis for our album. Now, the next step is we're going to put these two things together. So let me just hold this up temporarily while I toss things around in front of me. Goodness sakes. Okay, so the trim I've given you, this being a 9x9 album, is that hopefully we'll have 1 inch of black cardstock to wrap all the way around. Now, when I put this chipboard down here, we have this seam. I always want my seam to be as close to center on the spine as possible. That way it gets equal pressure from both sides. I don't like seeing seams like this, or like this. This sometimes you can't help. It will be because of the size of either the paper you're playing with or the size of the album you're making. But this should be in the center. So then the seam, only just a little tiny bit of it, another bonus, will show up here at the top and the bottom and not here, which can be distracting. But the closer you get to the gussets, this becomes a potential weak point, because then there's unnecessary pressure because it's flexing in and against this. So keep it in the center. And then when you get this down here, you should have about 1 inch all the way around. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run a perimeter tape 1/2 inch around this side and 3/8 on the outer edges of the chipboard. So that's where I'm going to start for now, because I will also need to turn this over, because we're going to put some tape on the back side of this chipboard so that it will stay down against the cardstock. I don't know why I'm turning the cardstock with the chipboard, because it's not attached. I can be so silly sometimes. You know, my mind sits here and thinks about this spine as I was explaining to you the 5/8 gap and reducing pages, but you can also add a page by doing the same thing. Increase the spine by 5/8. That way you end up with 4 signatures. That's a pretty big album at that point, because this already measures 2.5 inches by the 9 inches. Okay, so we've got this done. We're going to turn this over, grab our 1/2 inch tape, and then we're going to run tape onto the back side of this album. You know, it's going to be easier if I just do it this way. Excuse me. Okay, 1/2 inch. Half inch, half inch, and then I'm going to take 3/8 and I'm going to run it at the center. Now I want my quarter inch. We're going to put one here on the end. We're going to go here in the middle approximately. And then we're going to put a strip in the middle of each section that we just made. And then we're going to repeat this process on the other panel. In the middle. Now, if you have an album making method that you prefer, you don't have to make this one. Make the one that you're more comfortable with, but just keep in mind, I'm working with 5/8 of an inch of a gusset in between my pages. We're gonna build the pages here in a moment. All right, so now get that center. Well, it doesn't matter because I'm going to be moving this around. I need to run 1/2 inch tape around the perimeter. One more, and then we'll give it all a good burnish. All right. So, when you put this back on, and you know you want roughly 1 inch, and you want to keep that gusset in here, we're going to balance the ends so that we have hopefully the same gap or size of gap on each end. And I'm just going to sneak in here. So I'm not quite at it. I'm about 7/8 of an inch on this side, which is fine. And I am a little... What was that again? Okay, so I'm roughly 7/8 on each end, which is fine. Okay, so now that I've got that set, I'm going to check my, I want to be at 1 inch. There. Now, I'm going to palm this rather firmly so I can flip this up, and I'm going to take these out. I'm pressing kind of firm with my left hand because I've already got this positioned. I don't want it to adjust on me. And then give a nice little firm tug, straighten it out, and put it down. Okay, now let's sneak in here and let's start taking this apart. But I don't want you to be in a hurry. If you've not made one of my albums before, there's something I need to instruct you on, so don't be in a hurry to lay this down. The Tyvek moves, it shifts. So when you go to pull this over, you want to give it a gentle tug to keep this gap even, a gentle tug, and then lay it down. If you don't, then you could end up with something like this. And then you got to take all that tape off. You could end up with a 1/2 a gusset. So when you take this tape off, give a gentle but somewhat firm tug, kind of a backward statement, gentle and firm, but still, you just give it a nice little tug and lay it down, and that keeps our gussets nice and open. Give it a good old burnish. Yay! Okay, time to miter our corners. Okay. All right, so I am going to pull this back just a little bit. I'm not taking it all the way off, simply because I don't want my arm sticking to the tape. Pick it up and then start, whoops, with the burnish to encourage it to lay over, go in the middle, out. And then we're going to push these little corners, these dog ears, in. I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to repeat the process on this end. Let's see if I can do this again without dropping the tool. Okay, burnish, encourage it to bend. Okay, and then we're gonna turn these corners. All right, now we're gonna take off all of this. Turn it around, and I'm going to do that again. Okay, I'm going to get this up, and then I generally try to have the next step ready to go, so you're going to have to bear with me. I apologize. I've got to cut and trim, but I'm going to explain what I'm doing. All right, but before we get there, all right, so this is where we're at on the album. You've got gussets here, and generally you just close it, but then it leaves it kind of not a smooth process. So what I do is I pick this up. You can see it's starting to bend already, but I'm going to push this very gently, this cardstock down into the gusset, and it will help me do something else a little bit later. Do it over here. If you get too firm with this, the only solution you have, or two, is take all of it apart, start over, or use some glue to seal where that happens. So now when you do that and you close this, what you end up with are nice, clean peaks here. It's not rounded, it's not smunchy looking. All right, so building the pages, you're gonna want a 6-inch piece of cardstock. I apologize, I've got to dig into my cardstock here. So we're going to want a 6-inch piece. This is a 9-inch album, so we're going to cut this piece to be 8 7/8. So 6 inches by 8 7/8. So then when this comes on, now this is the 100-pound cardstock I'm playing with. So then when this comes in here, it should just rest about 1/16 of an inch top to bottom. And this being a 2.5-inch album, let me lift this up here. This being a 2.5-inch spine on the album, you're gonna have about that much that's gonna be on these two panels. So you're going to want to evenly space this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run 1/2-inch tape around the perimeter of this piece. But I'm going to only add tape to this portion here in the spine. Well, I guess I need to clarify that just a little bit. I'm not running the tape from end to end because I've already got the 1/2-inch tape that's going to take care of this. What I want is to get some supporting tape here, because this is what's going to hold our spine piece in place. So I run 3 on the spine and then 2 side by side on the outside. The reason I run 2 is it helps to prevent, I don't know if you've ever noticed it, when you've made an album and you go to close it, you find that there's a bit of a bubble here. Well, I'm trying to prevent that. I'm not saying that it will not happen. I'm just trying to prevent it. So the piece I'm going to take out first is this one, because I want to center this as best as I can. Come down so I'm just right on the very edge here, 1/16. I don't like to see my albums go from end to end. The paper, it just doesn't look right to me. All right, we're going to sneak in here, and then we're going to pull the rest of this tape. I'm not going to burnish this yet. It needs to be, but I'm not going to do it yet because there's something we need to do first. Just gently set that down. And then we're going to take off the bigger pieces. I know a lot of folks like to work with the hidden hinge. It's a great hinge, but it's, I don't use it simply because creating all those peaks and valleys, that's just not me, I guess, and I'm not trying to be disparaging. It's Kathy Orta did a great job designing that. I just find what I do to be a lot simpler. Okay, just kind of gently burnish. Now, here's where the big where it's going to come in at. We're going to bend this again. We're going to find where that is, and then we're going to push this cardstock down in this gusset. And in particular, I am trying to define where that the chipboard rests right here, because that's going to be my marker for our next step. So now gentle, 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 repetitive, gentle to get that to work. And then we're going to do it here on this side. Push that down in there. If you push too hard and you end up tearing it, the only solution you have is use something to get all this off, start all over, or run a glue that dries clear wherever your tear is. Now that I've got that down in there, now I can really give this a good burnish. And then when you lift this up, see these nice clean peaks? Nice clean peaks. And we've been able to identify where that spine piece is. All right, so you can see the spine piece pretty well. Now we're going to want 3 pieces of black cardstock that are going to measure 8 7/8 in the height. We will work on the length here in a minute. So there's 1. There's 2. Make sure I did cut those the same height. No, I cut one short. Oh, for Pete's sake, I thought I had. I went at 8 3/4 instead of 8 7/8. So these 2 should be, it's okay because I'll be able to use it. I need to grab another piece of 12 by 12, so bear with me here for just a second. And then I will trim this proper at 8 7/8. Because I want these pages to be the same height as this support piece in the center. This is where we're going to lay our pages, is right here. Now I'm going to create a 5/8 of an inch gusset on all 3 of these. So excuse the scoreboard. Five-eighths. Oh wow, I'm going, there must be a grain issue there because I'm going way off target. Slow it down, Charlie. All right. Now, turn it over, and I'm going to push back on that score mark. Give it a good burnish. Lots of flips and turns here, I apologize. All right, these are 5/8 of an inch gusset. I want my 1/2 inch tape. And I'm going to run tape one. Uh-oh. Here is 3. All right, so now this I'll show you my simple way. Trying to figure out measurements sometimes boggles my brain. So I'm going to close this up and I'm going to pretend that the album is in a closed position. I'm going to flatten this out up against the spine. I'm going to kind of push this up here just a little bit and let that drop. Now, what it allows me to do is allows me to see from here to here the length of the paper. I want to come back about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8, but let's see where this gets us. I don't like funky measurements, so I'll trim it as necessary. So this is coming in at 9 3/8 by our 8 7/8. All right, so we're going to trim this now at 9 3/8. All 3 of them. There's one. There's 2. And here's 3. Okay. Ta-da! Now, I'm going to take the tape off here, and I am going to try to position this so that I am just about 1/16 roughly off of this gusset. And I'm hoping this is where I run into trouble a lot, and that's trying to keep things straight. So I'm going to push up on this panel so that I can really redefine that gusset. And then I'm going to try and lay this just as straight as I can, just about 1/16 of an inch in. Gently lay it down, and what I'm looking for is even spacing top to bottom. And I feel good about that, because this one sets the premise for the next 2. All right, so now I'm going to take this one and I'm going to tuck it right up underneath the seam of the one in front. I'm going to lay it down. I want to make sure my pages are laying even. They are. Give it a good burnish, and now let's lay the last one. And again, I'm going to come right up underneath this seam that we've created, gently lay it down. How does it lay with? Just a little off. Okay, great. All right, so the album is complete. I am not covering these 2 panels. It's a waste of black cardstock because we're going to be placing our signatures over these, and this is all going to get hidden. Now, each of these pages is going to support a signature. We're going to build the signatures separate, and then we're going to adhere them onto our pages. But this is your album. It is ready for us to garnish the entire outside, and that's for the next video. So until then, bye-bye.